Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So today we are going to show you how to build these rotor wheel elevator systems. So let's get started. Alright, so the elevator systems that I've been creating in the underground base or operation below ground base is based off of a rotor system with small grid wheels to lift up a platform to make an elevator. So there's many kind of designs you can use this with. So the similar one that I made for the underground base is using 4 different pillars, and you can also do it with a singular pillar, which can be a 3x3, 2x2, or a 1x1, or whatever the case may be. So it's very flexible to have these types of elevator systems, and you can kind of combine it with a piston with the wheels too, but doesn't seem to be very recommended, to be honest, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Alright, so how do we build a system like this? Looking at this one can probably be very complicated, but if we look at the one in the middle here, which is based on a singular pillar, you gotta just make sure that you have 4 points of contact on the pillar itself from the elevator system. So as you see here in this system, you have a left and right and a forward and backward hugging this pillar in order for this elevator system to work. So looking at this system is a little bit more complicated because you have 4 pillars, so you can have a different amounts of points of angles or points that hugs this pillar, and this one specifically is being hugged by 2, one forward, one back, and also one on the side, as you see here. So there's actually 3 sides of contact versus the 4 on that singular pillar. So why it's possible is because you're running on 4 different pillars, right? So this side is missing, if we're looking at it this way, we're missing a left point of contact on this pillar. But we don't need that because on the next pillar, we have the left one here. So imagine this being a solid pillar going up. You have your 4 points of contact, basically left, right, forward, and backward. So that's how this elevator system is possible, because as long as it has 4 points of contact on the sides, meaning the whole entire system, then the elevator will not kind of tilt left and right or pitch up and down. So you have a nice even elevator system. So in order to build it, it can get a little bit complicated because once you build it, you're going to have to make sure that the rotors are on the right angle and which rotation it's going to spin in terms of the velocity. So if we put a box down there first, and that's just to hold the system down to connect it to this grid, and we're going to attach our first rotor here, and depending on how many you want to put in one side, I think 3 to 4 is the best idea. So what you want to do is potentially in the back of it, you can use half blocks, full blocks, doesn't matter. Up to you how you want to do that, and add them here. I like to spread them out so that it gives it more coverage in terms of the side here. And from here, what I normally do is either create a seat somewhere on this specific thing, or use a control panel, or if you have the mod that you can just easily access the rotors from clicking on it, then you can do that way as well. So you can either go into the system, go into the rotors that you just built on one side for now. I would advise you to name them so you know which one's which. So this is going to be my left one. So I'm just going to copy and paste these. And what you can do is make sure to hit all 3 of them, or how many more you make. You want to detach the large heads because you need small heads. So what I'm going to do is detach and then add on small heads. So once you add the small heads on here, let's put the wheels on. We want to put the small grid wheels onto the small head. So it's going to be a 5x5 wheel. And you can add pretty much as much as you want that's going to hug the side. So it's going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll just leave it as 5 for now on this system. And then just repeat the same thing for the rest. Alright, so now we have all the wheels attached to the rotor. We want to make sure the wheels are going to rotate counterclockwise to make it go up. So how do we know which way is counterclockwise? There's an easy step that I figured by just looking at it. So if you're looking at it at this angle, like looking at the rotor, and the rotors is on the right hand side looking at it, and it's supposed to go up, you want to put the velocity on a negative. So for an example, I like to use negative 15. So going with the rotors here on the left side. So we're going to do a negative 15 velocity on this side so that it spins on a counterclockwise direction, which is going to go up. So now we just got to set up for the other side of the pillar. So it's going to be this side here, which is the right side. And we'll put these boxes here. At the rotors, as we did before. And also get rid of the large heads, convert them to small heads, and then add the wheels. Alright, so I just add the small heads. I named this side the rotor rights. And now we just need to add the wheels on here. So again, it's the 5x5 wheels. And we can add about 4 or 5 of them depending on how long the platform is. Alright, so we added the wheels on this right hand side. So which direction should it be going? So looking at this platform pillar forward and the rotors on our left hand side, we want this to go up, which is going to be a 15 velocity. So this is going to have to rotate clockwise, which is the opposite of the left hand side. So we go to our right hand side, put on the 15 velocity, and it should be rotating clockwise looking at the wheels, and it should go up that way. Right, so if you think you're done, you can probably say yes, but it's gonna fail because this grips onto the wall so that it can go up, but there is a chance that it will fall out of the pillar to the left, or maybe even fall into the pillar towards the right, looking at this way. So what you want to do is add some more rotor wheels on the side. So you definitely want to add a grouping of them as well. So you want rotors here and maybe here, just to spread them out a little bit. And these are, I'm going to call them for this purposes as the back rotors. So it hugs this side of the pillar because it needs to be hugged on this side and also this side. So it has that 4 point of contacts as we mentioned before. So same aspect as we done on both sides. Get rid of the rotor heads, add the wheels. Alright, so once the wheels are on there, what we want to do is look at it this way. So this is the side that's going to hug. The rotor is on our right hand side, so that tells us we need to have the velocity as a negative 15. And that should make it rotate on a clockwise direction to go up. It's not moving now because I think we have it set up where it's kind of touching this box here. So if we remove this box, it'll rotate. There you go. So in this side, we probably, to make sure it runs perfectly, let's put a half block. And now it's rotating on a counterclockwise position, and it's going to go towards the top or go upwards. Let me just fix this really quick. So using half blocks so that it's not touching this, because the wheels cannot have another block here. So it can't be sandwiched between two. If it gets sandwiched, it doesn't know which direction to go to or which way it's up and down in that sense. So you have to give it some space in this sense. Alright, so now we just got to work on the other side of it. So we need one here and one here, but attached to the whole entire system. So you can obviously go in either direction, either this side or that side. That's really going to be up to you on how you want to do that. Alright, so one more time, looking at the rotor on the left hand side, which is hugging this side of the wall, it's on the left hand side. So that tells us it needs to climb or rotate on a clockwise. So that's going to be a positive velocity. Alright, so it's rotating on a clockwise and going up as you see here. So another tip to do with the rotor wheels elevated system also, if you want it to be a little bit more secure, you can add a rotor on both sides. So let's say, as we were saying, if the rotor's on the left hand side looking at this side of the column, we can also add one here so that it has two rotors connected to one side of the pillar or the column. So how can we do that? So it's fairly simple. What you want to do is just remove some of the wheels to give it room so you can make a rotor system here. So we're going to add that. And we'll just do it for the bottom as well. And what you want to do is remove the large head as always. So this time we're not going to add a head to it at all. right? Because we want to add the head to the wheels so we can attach it to the rotors. So we'll have to go grab our wheels, add it as close as we can to this rotor so it can give us space to add the rotor head. Alright, so as you see here, the wheel's been added, and what we want to do is add the rotor head here. So I'm going to grab the rotor systems, change it to the rotor part, put it right in the middle where it's supposed to be, like so. And then you want to add or attach the rotor head for these two down here. I got rid of some blocks so you can visually see it. I added the rotor part here on the wheel and not on the rotor. Same with the top one, so both of them are the same. We'll get into a control panel, go to the new rotors, which is these two rotors, and we're gonna attach them. So once we attach them, now they're locked in. So now this one and this one have a connection point with this one and this one. So they're not rotating now because of the velocity is not matched on the opposite sides rotors. So what you want to do is go back to the rotors and you can match it, meaning a positive or negative velocity, or you just do the torque as 0. And as you see here, now it is rotating because we put the torque as 0. Alright, so that's how you connect two rotors on each side to make it a little bit more secure. You can kind of just leave it as is, as long as the pillar has 4 points of contact. Next thing to do is make sure you add a battery to the elevator system itself. So we definitely need to add one somewhere here. And we need to add it on a point where it doesn't collide with the wheels. So we can add it in between them, on top, or wherever you want, whichever makes sense for your system. And then it'll be time to kind of detach them. But first, before we do that, we want to make sure to have a stopping system going up and down, actually. So there's multiple ways to do that, and that is going to be with, one is using a landing gear. So we can add a landing gear here where it locks onto the ground. That's one way. You could also do it with connectors to connect that way. And if you feel risky, you can actually just stop it with some tires or wheels as well. So it'll be like that. But ideally, you want to put a connector so you can charge the elevator system back onto its base. So ideally, I would say go with the connector. And what you want to do is actually remove the strength of the connector, at least for one, so that it doesn't like pull off of it. So you take the connector and go to the strength so that it doesn't have that strength to align it to it. And you have the system there. But again, these are kind of like 3 ways to really stop it without causing too much damage. If you don't have a wheel and just have the base hit the floor, that works too, but it will cause damage eventually and break some of your parts. So that's really not ideal. The wheel system will cushion it a little bit. The landing gear will definitely stop it, and it's not going to crash into it sometimes. For the most part, I would say. Sometimes it will. But the connector way is probably one of the better ways to connect the elevator system into the base floor or the top. That way it can charge the system in that way. The last thing to do is really get rid of this block that's holding the system from the base grid here. And we're going to turn this into a elevator grid or a separate grid from the system. So we're going to take this off in 1, 2, 3, and the system will go up. Alright, so the system's climbing up, and unfortunately we didn't put anything to kind of stop it, so let's quickly add some blocks here so that it doesn't go too high up. Hopefully it won't break anything. It shouldn't break anything, but let's see what happens. Alright, so it did help stop it. I should have put a connector up here to really stop it, to be honest. So we're gonna have to add one here and here, and you hear all the crazy clanging that's going on. So we put one connector there, one connector here. Alright, so that's not gonna work, so I gotta bring it down. So in order to bring the system down, we're gonna have to group all our rotors together as a group. So just call it rotors or elevator rotors, whatever you want to call it. put in our toolbar, and hit reverse. This way, if we want to go down, we just hit reverse, and it slowly goes down at that 15 velocity that we placed there. Alright, so now we're up and we can connect the connectors and the system will charge and hold its place. So for an example, I actually don't know which connector that is, but we're just going to use all the connectors on the system and just hit lock. So once it's locked, the system stands still and nothing's rattling or going crazy, so then the system won't kind of break itself. I'm sure going downwards, the system will kind of break because we need to add another connector. We should really add the connector in the middle and potentially on both sides if necessary. If you're going to put it on an angle like this, well, not really an angle, but on off of it, it might break the system because it needs another point of contact on the base on this side. So for an example, if you did it this way, it may or may not work. So let's just say for an example, we unlock, hit reverse, and the system's going to go down. I can already see once it hits this point, it's probably may angle it off of the column and break some of the wheels, to be honest. So let's just show you as a test and see how that works. Right there. So now the wheels are trying to go down regardless, and it kind of doesn't have another point on this side, so it's trying to go down still, and that's why it didn't connect. If you had a sensor to make it connect right away, it'll be perfectly fine. But if you don't want to play around with the sensors, you definitely need to add another connection point on this side so that it doesn't create that weird angle or push to it. Alright, so we put another connector on the other side. It's still a little wobbly. I feel like it's still gonna come off the pillar a little bit, but I think it's a little bit better than what we had before, so it probably won't do it significantly. And actually, it's perfect. So then you can connect in and the system will recharge and stay still on the base. Right, so that's it on how to build this rotor wheel elevator system. And again, there's multiple ways to make the system. Either you do a single pillar, multiple pillars, up to you, and then you can just build out the base of your elevator in any way. So in this way, for this type of one pillar system, you can build it around the pillar, and then you have your elevator to go up. So you can use half blocks or the blast door edges to hug on to this pillar, so that the system won't kind of cause issues. So if you had the base surrounded like this with the blocks here, it's gonna cause a clang and actually not go up very well. So right now it's hit reverse, and it's gonna slowly climb up and skip here and there, which is not ideal. So again, what you want to do is either use half blocks in the inner sides or use the blast door edges to make it a little bit better. Like so, you can just put all the blast door edges there, and it won't cause that weird kind of collide and clang upwards as you see here. So it's a lot more smoother using the blast door edges, maybe half blocks, other than the light armor blocks itself. Right, so as you see my other designs here, there's as we mentioned, the 4-pillar system. This system works really well. This is a way to design it so that you have a platform right in the middle, and that once you raise it to the top, you're not going to see the pillars that are on the sides here. So this system right here on the bottom is connected with a landing gear. So we just got to unlock it and then reverse the rotors, and that's how we bring it up. And then once it goes up, what you're going to see mostly is going to be just this flat platform up top, and not see the pillar in the middle like the system we just built. And there we go. So that's the example of making the elevator system similar to the one I have on the underground base. And this one is exactly the same one we made just now, but it's on a thicker column or pillar, and the connectors are right in the middle. So once we bring this guy up, the connectors will be able to connect into the spots up there. And again, you can put the connectors with a sensor. So you can easily put a sensor on the base of the elevator system, not the elevator itself, but the base of it. So you can put a sensor similar here, and then make sure to make it detect the grid or large grid once it gets close to this top block here. So that way you can activate these connectors to lock onto it, so you don't have to come down, lock it yourself, and all you need to do is make the connectors here to unlock. And on here we have a rotor wheel system attached to a piston system, which actually does work fine. The only problem is the limitation of how high it can go and how low it can go, as you see here. So if we turn this guy on, the system will go up, but the amount of pistons that we have actually surpasses this pillar, so it's going to go way higher than it can, but then that's the lowest it can go too. So the piston system combination does work, makes it a little bit more stable, but again, there's limitations, and the limitations is basically the maximum height and the lowest height of how far the elevator can go. So with all those pistons, that is way higher than this pillar, the gray pillar in the middle. The system can surpass it, and it's not going to cause too much issues, but you can bring it back down. But again, with the rotor wheel system without pillars, and if this column is high enough, it can just keep going and going and going if it needed to. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this how-to video for this rotor wheel elevator build. And of course, if you flip it horizontally, it is the same design I use for my tunnel jigging build as well. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell to be alerted of upcoming videos, and of course, leave some comments. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.